Welcome to the New Dad Order podcast. On this episode, Ray and I talk about the events that have followed the Charlie Kirk assassination, including the weekend cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel, the attack on freedom of speech, or maybe it's just the consequences, not quite sure. We also talk about the National Guard being deployed into the city of New Orleans, as well as other cities around the United States, and our thoughts on that. We don't solve the world's problems on this one. We will give it our best attempt on the next one. Nonetheless, it was an open conversation about some things that are going on in our world and the thoughts that we have about them. We thank you guys for listening. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop us a comment below. Also follow us on Spotify as well. Now, let's go.
This is the New Dad Order podcast, brought to you by Burns Estate Planning and Wealth Advisors. If you're in need of financial planning or retirement advice, we have all the information for them below. Check it out. My name is Ray. We got Parfait over there.
How's it going, everybody? Ray, how are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for asking.
Doing well. Have you lost faith in humanity over the last week after the Charlie Kirk assassination and everything that's going along with that?
I think I've gained it in the last week.
Real quick before we get started, guys, Thursday. Thursday is the thing that I have relied on over the last 8 months to get me back into recovery and get a good night's sleep. It doesn't have melatonin. It has everything your body needs to get back to recovery, to get a good workout in. Use the promo code NDOZZZ to get a discounted checkout. Really?
What, 2 weeks ago, after our last episode?
Mm-hmm.
It was...
What made you gain it back, out of curiosity? If you thought you lost it and then got it back, I'm curious.
I deep dived a lot more of those episodes of Charlie. And
what did you uncover?
I did not
see, outside of internet clips, obviously, because you were watching full content, right?
A lot of clips. But what you do is you go back and you find those exact episodes. They're obviously coming from him.
Correct.
So I found the exact episodes. And when you see the bigger content, and you see how they all end, almost, sometimes with hats being thrown, signatures, a little fist bump. I couldn't say that he was what he's been portrayed as. So it just felt better that way. I still disagreed with some stuff, but
it
felt better that way.
Yeah, I think if you agree with every single thing someone says, then you're living life through blinders, and that's obviously not a great way, not a way we want to raise our kids, and not a way that we should view the world either. So disagreeing it's healthy for the mind to have some original thought.
Agreed.
But so it's been a big topic of an attack on freedom of speech, an attack on the First Amendment, and I struggle with that. I struggle with that because it seems like no matter what side you're on, which is sad, but no matter what political party you tend to agree with, the argument is constantly made as an attack on the First Amendment whenever you don't agree. And I do think that this was, I think his murder, the senseless killing that happened, it was an attack on First Amendment rights. I don't think it's the end of the world. It won't be the first time. It won't be the last time. I think the part that I struggle with I'm not necessarily losing faith in humanity, is the fact that it's becoming a point the finger situation. And then Jimmy Kimmel gets, canceled for a day, so to speak, where he got pulled off the air because, syndicates didn't want to run the Jimmy Kimmel show because of insensitive comments. And it's like, well, is that also an attack on the freedom of speech as well? And I'm not sure. I don't think that that's an attack on freedom of speech. I don't think that he was trying to be canceled either. Do you think that falls under cancel culture as far as what Jimmy Kimmel went through based off of his comments, or the countless people that have lost jobs because they were celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk? Like, do you think that those people were penalized for using freedom of speech?
You get held accountable to what you say. You're allowed to say what you want to say in this United States of America. The government isn't going to come down on you, but you'll be held accountable by, the private entity. And I think that's what happened to them. But at the same time, it felt like what you just expressed there, the cancel culture. It felt a lot like that was going on.
See, so thinking about it and analyzing what exactly cancel culture is, and is the term being thrown around there, and I think in the case of Jimmy Kimmel, it is being thrown around. And I'm going to, I guess, somewhat use your words against you just now, but not it's not the intent, but just to explain my point, where you felt that that was an attack on freedom of speech from people being able to express themselves. But then you also said something that I think is very important, where you said it's accountability. And I think people often confuse freedom of speech with freedom of consequences. And that's the part where I think you said it and went over it, but it was exactly what you were making your point as to be, is that accountability. And I think that this is a situation where this is not people losing their jobs from posting a stupid TikTok about celebrating a man's death and then losing their job over it, or Jimmy Kimmel, being suspended for 5 minutes from ABC. It wasn't, their freedom of speech wasn't being taxed. It was them having to face the consequences for exercising the right of their freedom of speech. If enough people oppose your opinion and you're in the public, well, then you're going to be held accountable. And I don't think that he was being canceled. I saw cancel culture, right? And we've heard it. It's almost a term that is so watered down that what does it really mean? And thinking about certain situations of people being canceled, if you really look at the way those people were, quote unquote, canceled, it wasn't for a comment. It was for multiple things that people were trying to find wrong with them to get them to go away. Meaning that Rogan went through it, right? It was during COVID, where so many people were trying to recall everything he did. He's speaking against this. He's going to have, people are going to die because he's telling them not to take the vaccine. And that was the first sticking point. Look at him. They were shading his face to make it look like he was yellow and he was sick. And they were showing those clips on the news when he was talking about taking ivermectin. Oh yeah, I mean, he's showed it. He's brought up the clips, and it was interesting. And they were trying to find a reason for people not to listen to this person. Mm-hmm. He's not speaking what you need to hear. And they were trying to find a way to discredit him. And to me, that's what cancel culture is. It's finding any means necessary to discredit someone. And eventually, after it was a numerous amounts of things that they threw at him. And then finally they found clips of him dropping an M-bomb and making jokes. And that was finally something that stuck for him. And they made an attempt at it, and he issued a statement that he was, dumb and he shouldn't have said that. And it was a time where he thought it was okay. And obviously it wasn't, and it never is. But when we try to cancel someone, it is digging up every single thing we can find, throwing it at the wall. And if it sticks, and that's the part that gets it done, then that's the drive home point. And I think with Kimmel, this was an isolated incident. Because if you really want to cancel Jimmy Kimmel, you can pull up the Man Show clips where he was making misogynistic jokes that obviously a ton of people laughed at because it was on Comedy Central, where he wore blackface and he did the Karl Malone skit. It wasn't meant to be mean, but nonetheless, he did. A white man painted himself black and pretended to be something. He pretended he was acting. He was pretending to be Karl Malone. We all laughed at it. But that right there would be something where digging that stuff up, trying to get that stuff to stick so a man would lose their job. That, to me, that was cancel culture.
Yeah.
Him making a comment that was insensitive, thinking it was a joke because he's trying to appeal to half the country because that's the side that he aligns with. And then having to face the repercussions for those statements, that's not cancel culture. It's being held accountable, like you just said. And I think that was the big separation for me, that he wasn't being canceled. He was being held accountable. he had to face the consequences for it.
I'm a tad bit surprised that Disney did what they did, though. Seeing how I think they normally lean the other way, like his way.
Yeah,
So
they do,
sort of
which is crazy when you think about it, because they have this overwhelming base of conservatives,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of Christian conservatives tend to visit Disney parks, buy Disney products, consume Disney.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just plain and simple, where we live at. Every kid grows up not going to Disney World, but watching all the movies, little girls dressing up like princesses, Marvel, the superheroes. I mean, Disney owns so much that they don't even play to their base. It's usually red states. It became the Jimmy Kimmel thing. It's about money, right? Isn't that what it always ends up being?
I think they lost $1.5 billion.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
If the companies would have held true to
Mhm.
it, but they didn't. I think one of the companies at the time is still holding to, showing another news cycle opposed to showing the Jimmy Kimmel show at night. I tuned out a long time ago on Jimmy Kimmel.
A long time ago.
I actually used to like him. I really enjoyed him when he first came on.
When he had the dispute with Matt Damon.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, it was a
Damon.
running bit,
Yep.
and they played it well. And his show he used to have an open bar, and he actually recorded live, and the show would get off the rails, and it was funny. And then it was come election time, and I think it was the first time Trump won in 2016. He took a hard turn. He soapboxed a lot, and that was pretty much whenever I tuned him out.
Yeah.
Because I was a Letterman fan. I love David Letterman,
Mhm.
and obviously he was going to make more jokes about the right and whatever, but he did make jokes about both sides while he was in there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite bits he did was Great Moments in Presidential History, and it would be a George W. clip, and it was just him mumbling through his words, but it was funny. It was 5-6 seconds. The punchline hit, and then it was on the next topic.
Right.
It wasn't just let me keep talking about the Republican president. He's a
Over and over
moron.
again.
He's dumb. He's
Mhm.
this. He's that. No, it was a joke. He did it. Moved on. It was a funny bit.
Did you ever see the Carson clip?
Of
Jimmy Carson?
no,
Carson.
but what was
Johnny
it?
Carson talking about, I'm an entertainer. Talking about politics is not what I should do. Talking about politics is not something that we as entertainers or me and my talk show should bring out. You didn't hear that clip?
I didn't hear that, but it sounds interesting coming from someone who, actually late night meant something then.
Do you get sensitive about the fact that people say, he'll never take a serious controversy?
Well, I have an answer to that. I said, now, tell me the last time that Jack Benny, Red Skelton, any comedian, used his show to do serious issues. That's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that?
But you're not...
Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? It's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
Oh,
Because people tuned in.
It was huge.
Yeah, a lot of people. Not that many people watch late night,
Not anymore.
and not nearly as what it was. I think actually, like the highest rated late night show is Greg Gutfeld, which is on Fox News.
Oh, really?
That's the highest late night show. So
Oh, I thought it
the
would be
Tonight
the other
Show, no, like Fallon and
I thought it would be
Colbert and those guys. It was Gutfeld has been like crushing those dudes in the ratings.
Yeah,
And-
Fallon has a lot more fun, it feels like.
More fun.
I digress,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a little goofy though.
Oh, yeah.
The Charlie Kirk killing, that it's already being manipulated into getting certain storylines out there.
Mm-hmm.
Will we ever really know what happened? Nope. The conspiracy theories are starting, and conspiracy theory being labeled that is a negative thing, and all you're thinking about is, no, I think that there was a conspiracy against this person, but now if you say conspiracy theory, it's you got tinfoil in your head. But if you take the words for what they actually mean, there was a theory that someone conspired to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
So let's step back a couple of steps and talk about our initial thoughts the last episode. And are you still aligned with your thought process then, or has your perspective changed?
So I'm still in the same boat of I think what he initially started out to do is a good cause for what it was. Right? Like I don't disagree with that. And it has nothing to do with my politics. It meaning that he was trying to create something that allowed people to have a voice. I agreed with that. I still not a fan of the college clash tour where he went on there and they made viral clips. You know, the open forum discussion, I think, yes, I think anytime you can have an open forum discussion with people with opposing opinions, you're a lot better off than speaking to the people who always agree with you. But I still feel that everything I've said in that episode, it wasn't a off the handle thought. It was something that I had this opinion that was formulated of him through years of his content being out there. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say one thing that I did see that started to pop up a little more in my algorithm was actually a lot more of his faith-based speaking that he did. And that right there gave me, I'm not gonna say a newfound respect, but it gave me respect to any time he spoke about that topic. If he started to talk about his Christian beliefs, I found myself more engaged than if he was talking about crime in the Black community, LGBTQ, mental health, any of those topics right there. I could just flip the finger and keep on going.
Right.
I found myself a little more compelled whenever he did debate someone or have a conversation with someone about his faith. I thought that those were true. I felt more emotion from him when he was speaking about that than what I did whenever he was speaking about statistics from other things. To talk to you about a new pre-workout, relatively new to the market, new to myself as well, but it's getting the job done. It's not loaded with caffeine like a lot of the other pre-workouts. So if that's what you're looking for, then this probably isn't the product. But it is based in nootropics, which actually helps brain function. So if you've ever deep dove into that, this is part of what that product has right here. Going to get you ready for the workout. I'm a 5 a.m.er. Like I said, I need it. A lot of flavors. Hit the link in the description. It'll take you to the website. You'll get a new dad order discount. Pick your flavor. Bunch of other products as well. They have canned energy drinks. So thanks for listening. Check out Dubby and get that.
Earlier in his career, he was asked not to include his faith when he was out there debating.
Did you hear what the basis of him not including? Like, why did they not want him to do that?
We don't want to rile the people up. We don't want to bring, which I found. I was like, whoa. But I think after that, the clash thing that you were talking about, and when he started just picking up a lot of momentum, I think he rethought that process. And he started talking more about his faith and including that in his debates. So,
which is great because his platform grew and he did not back away from what his foundations as a human being was.
Right.
And I respect that because it's very easy to just placate to the base and continue to go in that direction.
You know, I know you said that, I didn't like him because of where it went, attacking different groups and just crushing
it became viral clips.
Right.
I wasn't a fan of that.
You weren't saying you were not a fan of him, just what his team was going. I think that was the problem, where his team started moving him into a certain direction. And the last video I saw was watch Charlie Kirk disembowel, or I forget it was dismember this left-wing ideologist. Right? Those types of titles that were on his videos.
That's going to get the person who loves him and hates him to watch.
Correct.
I mean, I think he has a hand in that, or had a hand in that as well. I don't think that he is completely innocent of not putting out those clips because it is getting out one of his strong speaking points, and he wanted people to come over to a more conservative lifestyle and conservative thought process. So I don't think it's strictly just his team that, that encouraged that. But I do think that if something provokes emotion, then you tend to go towards it. And just like the people that he had surrounded him, those talking points provoked emotion out of them. So of course they would want to encourage that. Right. And I don't think that's wrong. Much like if he had a very Christian core around him, I could see them wanting him to speak more of that. So the clips that are going to get the most clicks, though, we all know what those were.
Right.
You know.
No, I agree with that. He was one man, and he started that huge company, and it was growing. And there's people that are taking his videos, and they are editing, they're putting it together, and they're putting it out there. He might have had a little bit of say in there.
Pretty sure he had a big say. If I had to guess, man, how many millionaires do you know that don't have a big say in what goes on with what they're doing? I mean, he was the brand.
He was, yeah.
You know, it was him.
I want to believe that, you know, some of those titles that got out there, he was like, okay.
And those titles get
maybe
manipulated
pushed.
too from different avenues, not necessarily from, you know, Charlie Kirk official type thing.
Right.
You know, there are always going to be other people posting his stuff as theirs to get the views.
And I like that take that you had about that, how people will take his clips and use it for their agenda.
Yeah.
And different people have done that.
And I think that's just a part of history. And I think that is something that will never change, especially in the society that we live in, where we want to get out things that promote what we feel the best about.
People have taken his clips and used it for their agenda.
Yeah. The closeted racist using his clips that they were not intended to prove that point, but people used it for a certain thing. And I think that is something that it happens throughout our society on a daily. It happens throughout the world on a daily basis of what can we use to show, and that right there is propaganda. Like that's what propaganda is. You know, you're manipulating people's thoughts because you have the avenue to put it out there, or because it's what your strong belief in. It becomes a propaganda speech, which is such a bad word, but we've seen propaganda. Nazi Germany, propaganda, you know, in any type of, you know, dictatorship. And that seems to be where a lot of people think we are headed right now, because one thing that is currently going on in the state of Louisiana is our governor, who seems absolutely ecstatic about having the National Guard come to New Orleans, and the president who is encouraging this, as well as encouraging other cities throughout the United States to have the same action, cities like Memphis and St. Louis and Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, of having the National Guard presence on the streets. And that doesn't sit well with me at all. I'm not sure. Do you have, you know, and if you're not sure about it, in the state of Louisiana, Trump mentioned about having National Guard coming there to help police in the city of New Orleans because of the crime. And Governor Jeff Landry is very much in favor of this and stands side by side, regurgitating anything Trump says, like he just wants to be next to him for whatever reason. I'm not sure. But do you think that the National Guard should be deployed here in Louisiana, or any other city for that matter?
No. No. We do have a crime issue. We've had it, though. We've had it for many years, especially down there in that area.
A murder capital. I mean, there's songs made about it. I mean, anytime
we've had it.
Anytime a city becomes a murder capital of the United States, a rapper makes a hit song.
But if you look at the stats from last year to this year, I mean, 20%. It's down 20%. 2024.
We had
all crimes, murder
in the city of New Orleans.
City of New Orleans, down 20% from.
So there was a 2-week span of Super Bowl activity where it was the safest place on earth. Yes. They also bust out tons of homeless people into surrounding cities, into different states.
It looked completely different under those highways. It was crazy.
Yeah. And so, not saying that homeless people were the ones committing crimes, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and homelessness is one of those desperate times in people's lives. Mm-hmm. So they had a huge presence of state police and God knows how many undercover agents walking around whenever the Super Bowl was going on. And I think that security stayed there in place throughout Mardi Gras. So now you're talking about like a month.
I know we had that other issue with the guy that drove down.
That was New Year's Eve.
Yeah, drove down and did what he did. Very quick response to that. So
it really unsettles me, not because the National Guard would come in here, but it unsettles me because guys who join the military are not signing up to police their own. They're not signing up to be a policeman.
Well, it's not that. It's also National Guard. So these are just regular guys who decide, well, I want to get my tuition paid for, and I'm going to go join the National Guard, Army National Guard, and so they're not the everyday soldiers.
No, but
They have some training.
Well, they are. I mean, they're trained. I don't sympathize with someone who joins a military killing unit because they were trying to pay for their college. Like, you got to do a little more research than that. Like, you have to know that you still could be, like, you're trained to be a soldier. You're not going put in your 2 weeks, or however many weeks it is, 1 week a month, whatever the advertisement used to be on TV, and we'll pay for your school. Like, I think we all know that, like, hey, man, like, stuff might go down, and like you really got to be ready.
That was my stereotypical response to guys that join the National Guard. But there are real guys that are in these types of branches. Like you got the Marines. I forget what they're called. It's not a National Guard, but you got Marines who serve that way. My son was, but he considered himself a real Marine.
Like a reservist?
It was a reservist. All the branches have reservists. Just like you said, they should look at it as I am actual military.
Yeah.
While I'm in here, I am actual military, and not just, working my 9 to 5, and then I'm going to go over here for 1 weekend or for 2 weeks when we have to go out. I think it's once a year. It's 2 weeks or something of that nature.
But
we're gonna have those. But we'll have those kinds of guys if deployed, and we have them deployed in Chicago and deployed in DC out there.
Yeah. So, have you ever seen a movie where the person in charge starts to use the military and it turns out good for the people?
No.
That's what kind of scares me.
Yeah.
I don't think that Trump is trying to be a dictator, all right? Like, I don't think that. But I think people get so caught up in cheering for their guy that they fail to lose sight of certain things that should be unsettling. And having guys in army fatigues and military vehicles riding through the streets in the United States is not something that we need to see unless there was a Category 5 hurricane and they're here to rescue people.
Right.
If there was tornadoes that ripped through the Midwest, fires on the West Coast, whatever it may be, that's whenever we want to see those guys in green and military vehicles showing up.
Not supporting police officers.
Not supporting police officers. And throughout history, when the military has been used to calm the streets, it has led to a lot of bad things. Like dating back to like Julius Caesar. Like dating that far back to the Roman Empire.
Wow. Okay.
You have Napoleon. You have Hitler. You have tons of leaders throughout the history that it has happened. Medieval times, Napoleon. You've had in Argentina. You've had it in Chile. You've had it in Nigeria. You've had it in Egypt. You've had it like all of these places. It's a recurring theme that when the military really starts to get involved, it doesn't usually turn out well for the citizens. And I'm like, that's the part that scares me. I don't think that is the goal of our president of the United States. But I don't think that any citizen in any one of those situations thought it was the goal of the person that was in charge. And it's not necessarily the guy that's in charge now, but how close, like we were just talking about with Charlie Kirk and the people that surround him and putting out content and the ones pushing him into the direction of this content because it's best and it's probably what fits their agenda more than what it may fit his. How many people are surrounded by, or how many leaders have those type of people surrounded by them? You start off with parallel thinking, and then that parallel thinking tends to go, I can steer him into my parallel thinking, but I'm his other advisor, so I'm going to steer him into my parallel thinking. And then all of these little subsidiaries start to form. And a little thing becomes a big thing. And in these countries that are not the United States, that have been around for way longer than 250 years, go through civil war and a rise of a dictator. I don't think it's going to happen here in the next 4 years. I'm just saying that this path of military being on the streets as American citizens, it should sit uneasy with us and we should not be in full favor of it, blindly supporting it. If it happens, we should constantly have some type of resistance to it. When is this going to end? When are they going to be gone? Knowing a timeline. Cool, you did your job. We really appreciate it. Things are in check. Now it's time to move on. Have them here and then have them go. Not be here and then set up a presence. Kind of like we do after we fight a war where we set up a military base. We set up an Air Force base. And we set up an Army base. And we have all these military bases all across the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we already have military bases throughout the United States, but do you get where I'm going? Like,
I do.
Like, yes, I can throw the tinfoil hat on possibly, or I could have genuine concern because history has proven to repeat itself more than once.
Right. No, I don't. You know, when you put it this way, when you put it, I should think about these things more often, but I really don't. I really don't. It's like we shouldn't do it. Like, okay, Chicago, maybe you needed it. Okay, DC, maybe. But the thing is, did we hear a lot about the crime in DC? Did we hear a lot about the crime in Chicago? Maybe a little bit more. But here in New Orleans, it's always been there. But we've always been able to suppress it. We've always been able to. I mean, we already talked about the things that we did during the Super Bowl, but I think there's a bigger picture. I know you're trying to lay it out there without saying it.
Oh, what do you think I'm trying to lay out?
I think there's a bigger picture. He's mentioned, one in another term.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Honestly, that wasn't even in my head. But you're 100% correct. Like,
yeah. So
nature, yeah.
So when we get the military out there, and the reason why we have the military out there is because the crime is so bad. Go across the lake to Covington. The crime's really bad over there. Let's go set up outposts out there. Whoa! What are you talking about?
Yeah,
right. I'm just saying, like, it could go that route.
Yeah,
and that's nerve breaking.
Yes,
that's very nervous.
Yes, and it does not matter who is in office. We just happen to have the most polarizing president that we have ever had in office right now. And
why would he think, let's use the National Guard all of a sudden? Why?
I don't know. But my thought process would be the exact same if Barack Obama, if Joe Biden, if George W., if Donald Trump, or if the next president of the United States said the same thing. My thought process would not change. I really liked history as a kid. I enjoy it now. Don't consume it and read about it as much as I used to. I like watching period piece movies. Like I said, that's when I started off. You don't usually see movies where the military is involved in the streets that it turns out well for the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that people don't blindly agree that this is the best thing for us and keep them here until. Because when does until end? And that's what it genuinely, it makes me nervous. And it makes me nervous as a dad, because we rule our house with some type of authoritarian structure, whether you want to or not. But I've also made a point to make sure that I have discussions with my kid that he understands if there is punishment, why it incurred. Are you accountable for the actions that you did?
Mm-hmm.
And understand that these are the consequences that you face. I hated giving them, and I don't ever do it because I said so. We've had this conversation before. I don't give the because I said so. I give there's a reason. If you don't think there's a reason, let's talk about why. Why would you think I would do this and make this call on punishing you for whatever you did?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't logically come up with it, then I will explain to you why we came up with it. And then once the punishment is over, it's over. We're not bringing it back up and throwing it into your face. We're not going to recall this. Every incident is an isolated incident until you continue to do the thing that you did before.
Right.
And I think that goes with the way we should be governed as well.
It feels more like big government, and from what I understand,
that's a very good point.
He's supposed to come in here and
minimize the government. Put it on a local level.
So think about that, right? Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, why would you throw the National Guard out there? Got them in 2 cities, but then you take away the National School Board. You take that away and say, here, states, you guys take care of all that.
Yep.
But now you're saying, nope, I'm going to come in, I'm bringing the national. And there's so many different things you can throw out there.
And he's not the first president to do stuff, but.
Yeah, it just makes me nervous. I like the discussion. It just, where he's going.
And even having this conversation, like, I was trying to keep it in a way of not keep referring to him, because I don't want, for me, this conversation wasn't about him as it. It's more about what is happening right now with people that are in charge. Because the governor scares me just as much if he's that much in the back pocket of this and not questioning certain decisions. No timeline on it. So I don't think that, like I said, I don't want it to be, it's not an attack on everybody's favorite president in Louisiana. That's not what this is. This is my thoughts on what I think is a scary situation whenever the military is walking through the streets of the cities that we live in.
Yeah.
But Ray, we did not solve the world's problems yet again. We'll make another attempt at it. But just it's been a crazy couple weeks, and there's been multiple layers to it. It's not going to change. Do our best to be a loving husband, a caring father. Pray to Jesus. Just try to make the world a better place by having conversations with people that don't see things the way we do, and understanding that that's probably the best thing whenever we don't see eye to eye and we can get together and have a conversation. We do appreciate everybody for joining us. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Spotify as well. And until next time, we'll see you on
New Dad Order.